Think of a day that your husband is late to return home from work and he's out of reach, or when he's working late at office and when his phone is not working, or maybe when your children have gone for a stayover. How do you feel about these things? When your husband is on a phone call, maybe a little late at night, or maybe longer than his usual talk time, how do you feel? Do you feel suspicious when he's little late? Do you feel suspicious waiting for him to return? Ladies and gentlemen, suspicion is a silent killer. It kills your relationship with your partner, with your children, maybe with your neighbors, relatives, parents. Suspicion is something that we have all experienced. Sometimes we suspect what they tell us. We might think, oh no, they're lying. They're definitely lying. And we start to suspect our children, our partners. Think about your life. Isn't it the truth? Sometimes when people come to us and ask us how to get over this, because whenever you start to suspect your partner, your children, you no longer can treat them the way you want to treat them. You would say things that you later regret, or do things that you later regret. Whenever people ask us that how to come out of this feeling of suspect, we always tell them that to come out of it, you have to understand how it happens. Whenever you want to come out of suspicion, anger, regret, disappointment, you always have to look for causes, ladies and gentlemen, because this suspicion is a resultant of certain causes aligning in a certain way. Until you realize these causes, you can't come out of it. Actually, all you have to do is understand how it happens. Then it won't happen. So let's see how this suspicion happens in your mind. Why do you feel that your loved ones will leave you? Why do you feel sad when your loved ones are away from you, or when you feel that they're slowly drifting away from you? So to answer that question, we have to go to the very beginning of your marriage. So let's go back to the beginning of your marriage. Before you got married, what did you think about being married? What did you think about marriage? What was your idea? You thought that getting married is pleasurable, right? You thought it's joyful. You thought that it's essential, or you thought that being married is a good thing, that it would solve all your problems. It would give a new start to your life. Because of these views that you had about marriage, you liked to get married. Think of it. Will anyone get married if that person doesn't like to get married? Of course not. You like to get married, and that is why you got married. When you like to get married, what happens? You want to get married. And when you want to get married, think about when that wanting happened in your life. Think about the time that you wanted to get married to the one that you love. How did you feel? Didn't you feel restless? Didn't you feel a vexation in your mind? Think about the day before your wedding. How did you feel? You were vexed, right? Because you wanted to experience that perfect wedding. We all planned for years for that perfect wedding. So you can't say it was a very joyful time. No, it was a very stressful time. We wanted a flower arrangement to be perfect, the floral decors. Then you wanted your dress to be that perfect dress, your makeup, your hair, everything in that wedding. You wanted them to be the way you dreamt your entire life. And then you started to vex about that marriage. Then on the wedding day, what happened? That stress that you felt, that urge that you felt, that vexation you felt, reduced. And that is why you felt so happy. Actually, not happy, that is why you felt such pleasure on that wedding day. And if you reflect on that big day, didn't you always expect a perfect life after your wedding? You know, from those films you've watched, those songs that you've watched, you always expected a perfect life after that wedding, right? You wanted your husband to shower you with gifts and flowers every possible day. You wanted to have those cute little babies who would grow up to become doctors, lawyers, well recognized people in the society. You wanted to have that luxurious house, luxurious vehicle, that perfect little life. This is what you expected after getting married, right? It was a very fixed life, don't you think? How your husband would live with you was fixed in your mind when you got married, right? How your children would grow up was fixed in your life when you got married. But, ladies and gentlemen, is it how it's going on right now? Everything that you thought would go according to your way, is it how it's going? Are you happy the way it goes right now? Are you 100% happy about the way it goes now? I won't answer that question. Anyways, when you got married on that wedding day, you started to dream this perfect life where your husband is perfect, where your children are also perfect. See, you always wanted them to live according to how you want them to live. People never think of life as a resultant of causes coming together. That is why these expectations happen. That is why we always expect people who we associate to live according to how we want them to live. We always forget the nature of nature, which is when causes come together, effects manifest. But because you have this perfect little life, this fixed perfect little life in your mind, it is created in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, depending on what you have seen in movies and in films and in advertisements, where they show that perfect life. Now you have these views, you have this fixed perfect life. And what happens is when you have this fixed perfect life, it pushes you towards fear. Now you're always afraid. What if my partner cheat on me? What if my children do things that would bring disrespect? What if I lose these loved ones? What if I lose this family? Fear starts to creep into your life when you have a fixed, perfect life. And when fear creeps in, what happens next? You start to suspect people who are around you when they do things that you don't expect them to do. When he's late, you might think, okay, what is he doing? Is he being faithful to me? When he's on a phone call with another colleague, a female colleague, you might think, why are they talking at this time? Is he being faithful to me? Or is he cheating on me? When you feel this suspicion, I don't have to explain you, right? Life becomes a living hell when suspicion creeps into your life. And that happens because of fear. That happens when you have a fixed, perfect life. And you know why this happens? Because you believe that there is a fixed person in you. When you feel that you are an entity, when you feel that there is a fixed person in you, you think that your husband is also a fixed person, that your children are also a fixed person. Just think about it. If I ask you what you are, how can you explain yourself? We have discussed these things in our previous sessions also. You can't explain yourself apart from these, right? You're either sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, or thoughts. This is what you are. This is what happens. Nothing more than a millions of chittas arising and passing away. But unfortunately, because you think that there are fixed things, because of ignorance and attachment, when sight happens, you feel that you exist. You feel when you hear sounds, when hearing happens, you feel that you exist. And you think that you have been with this person for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Because you feel that you are a fixed person, you expect others also to be just the same way. You think your husband is a fixed person. But in reality, millions of chittas arise and pass away in this body. Tell me, if you don't know what sort of chittas would arise in another 1 hour or 2 hours, do you know how you are going to react? Do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Do you? You don't. But if I ask you, how would you think about your marriage life in another 5 years' time? You would think of it as a perfect little life. Do you see the fallacy that you live in, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just trying to get across to you the truth of your life. Until causes get aligned, you don't know what's going to happen. If the truth is such, how can you have an expectation over anyone when you don't know what's going to happen in another 5 minutes' time, ladies and gentlemen? How can you expect what will happen in your children's life in another 10 years' time? So you are the only one who can come out of this by understanding this truth. Everyone who you think you associate are nothing more than a bunch of chittas arising and passing away. And until causes get aligned, you don't know what is going to happen. So these expectations that you have within will always lead you towards fear, which will lead you towards suspicion. Understand this reality. Understand the truth that you have never associated fixed people in your life, ladies and gentlemen. When you realize that this sense of separation that you feel is nothing more than a sense of separation that arises due to ignorance and attachment, you will realize expectation is something far beyond your control. I mean, you are not in control of anything, to say the truth. When causes come together, things start to unfold. So why suspect now? Why suspect your loved ones when you are with them today? Live free. And your freedom lies within you when you understand that all you are is nothing more than a bunch of chittas arising and passing away. And all that happens is causes getting aligned. How can you expect to that perfect little married life that you have within to flow just the way that you want? Accept everything that happens. Because by the time you realize what has happened, causes have already aligned for that. We are always a little bit too late when we realize what happens. So with that truth, live a free life. Be responsible, be accountable to all your actions, but still look at it through this truth. So until I see you next time, try and understand the nature of nature.